Okay, I'm going to start. I am recording, so just be mindful of not yelling out. Okay, so first off, I might turn the lights out. I'm going to look at setting up a document. So if you want to, you can join in, and go at setting up your document with me. So the first thing when you're setting up your file is to go new document. So I've already got one set up that I'll demo, but I'll just do the whole thing from scratch. We are looking at mobile. You'll need to drop down the presets, and it's this one, the iPad Retina. That's how you're going to set your document up. And we're going to do landscape pages. And then it's okay to keep measuring in pixels. If it confuses you, you can switch back to millimeters. But it's a screen. The other thing I would definitely do is turn off that primary text frame. That will drive you crazy, having that on. And then hit the preview so you can actually see what it's going to look like when you make that document. So the reason for doing that is just so you can check out your margins. So you can see there it's 36 pixels. That's not actually a lot. And so it's going to take things very tight to the edge. So you want to have a look at your sketches. I did try to encourage you to think about having a bit more space, especially at the bottom and the top. So once you start to lay it all out, you can come back and change this again. But just to think, that's probably not enough. And because we're measuring in pixels, you might not, it might not make much sense to you. But something like 70 pixels is nice and generous, and you can unlink them and say, okay, down the bottom I'm going to have my navigation, or at the sides I'm going to have navigation. So either way you can fine tune what that looks like. So then when I say create, I've already got something that I'm happier with. The other thing you can consider is how many columns you want to work with. We are going to work with columns, even though we might not necessarily be laying out a traditional publication like a magazine. We still want to work with columns and guidelines, so we are working with a grid structure. And that'll keep some consistency from one screen to another, so we don't look like we're suddenly jumping to a new document when we flip to a new screen. So consistency is important. So I'm going to put 6 columns in. You don't have to. You can look at. We'll look next week. We'll look further at different ones, and you can say how many pages. Now we know we're starting with 6, but we could have more. You can easily add more. And when you're happy with that, you create it, and you're going to end up with something that looks like that, with your pages. And the other thing is, in your workspace, if you're not seeing all these tools up here, just check what workspace you're in. It is easier to go and set it up using the Essentials Classic. It seems to bring up all the rest of it. You can go digital publishing and just check what it's giving you, that you've actually got access to those tools at the top. If they're not showing, then you need to do something about that. So,
how did you get several pages?
So that's in that first menu when you're setting it up. I just said the number of pages.
Okay.
But at any point, you can go to your pages layout. See the little tags down here? You've got your pages, and then it shows you how many pages. You can always insert more pages, move pages, delete them, etc. And we will talk about parent pages, which are these things. And we'll talk about what we'll put on those. We'll talk about that next week, because that allows you to put things on there that repeat. So if you have something you want to appear on every page, like the navigation, you'd want to set it up on the master. It used to be called the master page, now it's called a parent page. Whatever you put on there then repeats all the way. But you can unlock individual pages from it and delete a repeat item on a particular page. say you wanted the same thing on every page except the infographic page. So then you'd set it up for the most number of pages and then unlock the master page. You see you get an option here. It says override all parent pages. So, but it's still better to set up repeat items so they're always in the same place. You can always unlock them on an individual page. So we'll definitely get to that next week. So I'll just show you the finished slideshow, which has now disappeared. Where's that gone? I don't know what happened to it actually. Okay. My bad. Alright, so I'll do it from scratch. So I'm going to create the frame for the images, and there's a particular way of doing it that will save you a lot of time. So using the columns as a useful kind of guide, I'm going to have my slideshow across these two, something like that. And then I'm going to navigate and go File, Place. And this is where your folder becomes important. If you've got your images, you can then just say Open. So, you know, you logically set them up. You're not going to be ransacking your computer and your hard drive and your, you know, OneDrive. You know where they are. They're sitting in the correct page folder where you plan to put the slideshow. So you do them one at a time, and you'll see why in a minute. And say Open. Play around with the object fitting, you know, so that you're happy with it, you know, and get the frame size on the first one to the exact size that you want. Once you've done that, you can use the black selection tool and the Option key. Hold down the Option key to drag, or copy and paste, that's okay as well. So I'm doing a copy. The reason I'm doing it this way is so that they're exactly the same size, because it's just the same size frame. But I'm going to swap in File, Place. I'm going to swap in the next image, but I know that they're exactly the same size because it's the same frame. And again, if I, you know, just check if I've got it. Oh yeah, that one is. It's filling the whole frame. It's what I wanted. So it is easier if your images are cropped to the same size, but it's not a disaster if they're not, as long as your frame is the same each time. So then the same thing, I'm going to hold down the Option key and drag to make a copy and put my third slide in there. Go away. I'm not going to answer this. Go away. So then place your next one, so the last one, and you can have heaps of these, you know, you can have a whole fashion show, you know, you can do so many images in it. It's just the same principle. I would start with 3 and then work your way up, have a few more. Now what we need to do is select all of those frames, so all 3 are selected, and then use your alignment tools, which is why I said make sure you've got them showing before you begin. Because you want to align them so that they're completely on top of one another. So I've used those alignment tools that are displayed there. If they're not displayed, make sure you've got the right workspace before you begin. So we did all that, and now we've got to do something to this. So we're going to drag over all 3, so we know they're selected, and we're going to do our first thing, our first kind of exploration of window interactive. So we're going to be going here for all our interactive features that we're going to use. So you can see you've got animation, buttons and forms, so buttons you'll use a lot. We've got hyperlinks, so you can link to an outside website. So you might want to put a little ad, or you might want to put a little, for more information, see, and it might be a historical site or something you want to link to. So you need to put a hyperlink in somewhere. I think that's on the brief. Ignore the liquid layout. We actually are doing a fixed layout because we actually don't want it reflowing all the time. Media, so that will be your MP4 movie that I've talked about. But this one we're doing now is called Object States. Note that you can play with the page transitions too, so you can make lovely transitions from one screen to another. And timing, so when we get to animation, you can make your animations, they automatically play in the order you make them, but then you can go back into timings, switch it around so a different one comes first. You can experiment, you can have them slowing down, but going fast. There's a lot of controls in there after you've made the animations. So it's all in here that we're going to be working. So this one we're going to work with is called object states. And nothing seems to have happened when we open it. But what you have to do, and it tells you there, click the new button to create it. You have to have something selected. And you know it's worked when you can see each of the 3 slides showing up. So it's a multi-state object that we've just made. So that's the first step. The next step is to have some buttons that make you switch from one state to another. So to do that, we're going to have to make a button. So I'll do a quick and dirty button. I made some nice ones before, but I don't know what to do with them. So just fill it with something. I'll just get my swatches. And this is going to be a button, and I can probably make it look more like a button if I turn it on its side. And I'm going to probably just scissor one of those. Is that going to work for me? I don't know if that's going to work. No, it's not going to work. I'll just do it as a diamond because I want to be quick. So imagine that's a nice little arrow there. It's going to become a button, and you want to have one on the other side. So a good idea is to put some sort of a guide there from you just click there to bring guides on, so you can control where the other button sits. And you can again hold down the Option key to copy whatever button you make. Now you can customize these buttons in Illustrator. Anything can be a button. So an image can be a button, a graphic can be a button, a shape like this can be a button. That's all good. But we have to tell it to behave as a button. So we have to go back to our window interactive again. And this time we're going to turn it into a button. So we have to tell it how to behave. We want it to behave as a button, and the button then comes up. And what type of button is it? It's a button. You can see there's other things, there's check boxes and lists, and there's other things you can have which you could explore. But what we want is a button, and then we can have some behaviours on it. So what is this button going to do? We're going to put an action on it. So you can see the number, these are the actions that you can work with. So we can make a button go to a particular destination, to a first page, last page, previous page. It can go to a URL, so an outside website. This one, we'll be using that when we do pop-ups. It's a little more complex, we will get to that. It can trigger an animation, it can go to a page, and what we're doing now is a state. So we want that button, the one I've got selected, to go to the previous states, going backwards. So we just say that, and that's what it'll do. And then the other button is going to go forward. It's going to go to the next state. So we have to, again, make it into a button and tell it what to do. So we want it to go to the next state. So buttons can take you to pages. They can take you to animations. They can trigger all sorts of things. You can set them up to do a whole bunch of things. So you'll see them all under there. These are all the possible things you can make a button do. So you can make it play a sound, so if you want to add music and tracks, which some people do, and so on. So that's what we're going to explore, all that stuff, yeah? And then you also have this little preview button here, which is important. So you can actually preview and check if what you've set up is actually working. So you can drag that screen up and just check if it's actually working. Well, yeah, mine seems to be working. Click, 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 click. There are some things you can't preview here. Probably the navigation is the big one. You might not be able to preview. There's a few things that don't seem to preview terribly well. And in that case, you've got to preview it on the iPad. So once we start adding text, I'll be getting you to that'll be the first thing we do. We will learn how to preview stuff on the iPad and we'll be exporting this whole document as an EPUB and airdropping it onto an iPad. And the first test you'll do will be the point sizes, because point sizes on screen are very different to point sizes in print. So you're used to working with 12-point type as your kind of maximum in a print document, but on a screen it's going to be more like 24-point. But we need to test that out. We need to test out your heading sizes, so we'll do at least one. So that's all I'm going to cover now, and I've recorded this so you can go back through it and have a go at making your first interactive object. So it's a multi-state object, and you need to do it in that order. You need to make the multi-state object first, or there's nothing for the buttons to do. There are no next states for it to find. And like I said, you can have heaps of these. You can have more than one slideshow. Don't put more than one slideshow on a page. You probably can, but notice here it just says button 1, button 2. You'll get very confused because every time you go to a new page, it's going to be button 1, button 2. So it's a good idea, to name them. So give this whole thing a name. So slideshow, coffee slideshow 1 or something like that, so I can distinguish my slideshows. Okay, so that's it. That's all I want to show you. And the other thing